The stars shone brightly against the darkness of space as the Earthship UES Discovery approached the massive Vordari border station. The year was 2157, and humanity was about to make first contact with the alien coalition known as the Vordari. Imperium. Ambassador William Carter stood on the bridge of the Discovery, smoothing down his formal blue uniform. At 53, Carter had gray at his temples and deep lines around his eyes from years of diplomatic service. He was calm on the outside, but his heart beat fast with both excitement and worry. "We're receiving docking instructions, Ambassador," said Captain Frank Miller, a stocky man with a shaved head and 20 years of space service. "Very good, Captain. Let's make history," Carter replied, turning to his military advisor who stood nearby. Colonel Sofia Martinez checked her data pad. One last time. She was 41 with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Our scans show their weapons are active but not targeting us. Standard procedure for them, most likely. Let's hope it stays that way," Carter said. The Discovery was not large as far as spaceships went. It carried a crew of 65 and was built to explore rather than fight. While it had basic defenses, it was no warship. Earth's leaders had decided to send a modest vessel to appear non-threatening to the Vordari. As the ship docked with the alien station, Carter, Martinez, and their team of 5 prepared to disembark. The airlock cycled, and for the first time, humans stood face to face with the Vordari. The aliens were tall, nearly 7 feet in height, with bodies covered in what looked like purple-blue crystal. They stood on 2 legs but had 4 arms, each ending in 3-fingered hands. Their faces had no nose, just breathing slits, and their eyes were large and completely black. "I am Kritvex, governor of this sector," said the lead Vordari. Its voice came through the translation device as flat and cold. "You will follow me to Supreme Commander Zextaler." Carter stepped forward with a respectful bow. "I am William Carter, Ambassador of Earth and the United Earth Colonies. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to establish diplomatic relations between our peoples." The Vordari made a sound that might have been laughter. "How quaint. Follow." Colonel Martinez caught Carter's eye, giving a slight nod to indicate she'd noticed the dismissive tone. They followed the aliens down long, curved hallways that seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as the Vordari themselves. The central chamber they were led to was enormous, with a ceiling that rose at least 50 feet. Seated on a raised platform was a Vordari larger than the others, with crystal formations that glowed with internal light. "Supreme Commander Zex Taylor," announced Kritvex with a deep bow. "I present the mammals from the Sol system." Zex Taylor leaned forward, the black eyes showing no emotion that humans could read. "So you are the bipeds that have been making noise at the edge of our space, barely out of your gravity well, yet already poking at the stars." Carter stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, we are honored by this meeting. Earth wishes to establish peaceful relations with the Vordari Imperium. We bring greetings and offers of trade and cultural exchange." The Supreme Commander made a clicking sound. "You speak as if we were equals, mammal. The Vordari Imperium controls 17 star systems. We have been traveling space for 1,000 years. What could you possibly offer us?" "Every species has unique perspectives and technologies, Commander," Carter replied smoothly. "Different evolutionary paths lead to different innovations. We believe mutual exchange benefits all." "Perhaps," said Zex Taylor, though the tone suggested otherwise. "You will be given quarters. We will evaluate your potential over the coming days." After they were dismissed and shown to their rooms, Colonel Martinez pulled Carter aside. "They're sizing us up, sir," she whispered. "Did you notice the maps on the wall behind the commander? Those weren't just star charts. They were conquest plans." Carter nodded grimly. "I saw. Their evaluation isn't about diplomacy. It's about determining how difficult we'd be to conquer." That night, while the Earth delegation was supposed to be resting, Colonel Martinez slipped out of her quarters. Using skills from her Special Forces days, she avoided the Vordari guards and found her way to a data terminal. With a small device she'd smuggled in, she began accessing the Vordari network. What she found confirmed their worst fears. The Vordari had already labeled Earth as a Class 3 acquisition target. They had complete scans of Earth's defenses and detailed plans for a quick subjugation of the planet. "They've been watching us for years," she whispered to Carter when she returned. "They know about our colonies on Mars and Europa. They've calculated exactly how many ships it would take to overwhelm our defenses." Carter's face grew pale. "We need to warn Earth, now." "They're jamming our long-range communications," Martinez reported. "And I doubt they'll just let us leave after I hacked their system. They'll know someone got in." As if on cue, alarms began to sound throughout the station. "We need to get to the ship," Carter said, already moving toward the door. "Gather the team." The escape was chaotic. 2 of their team were captured in the corridors. Captain Miller had the engines ready when Carter, Martinez, and the remaining 3 team members fought their way to the docking bay. The Discovery broke free from the station as Vordari weapons fire lit up space around them. A hit to the engine section sent the ship spinning. "FTL drive is damaged," Miller shouted over the alarms. "We can't make it back to Earth at full speed." Martinez made a quick decision. "The escape pods, they have emergency FTL, small enough to possibly avoid detection." "I'll stay with the ship," Miller said firmly. "We'll draw them away, give the pod a chance." There was no time to argue. Carter, Martinez, and Lieutenant Alan Garner, the youngest of their team at 28, crowded into the single working escape pod. The other team members chose to remain with Captain Miller, knowing their chances were slim. As the pod ejected, they watched the Discovery turn to face the pursuing Vordari, ships buying them precious time. "We'll make it count," Garner said, his voice tight with emotion as they watched the brave sacrifice on the pod's small screen. The tiny pod jumped to FTL, carrying its vital warning toward Earth. Behind them, the Discovery erupted in a flash of light as its reactor was breached. 6 weeks later, the damaged pod crashed in the Arizona desert. Only Garner survived, his body broken but his mind intact. As medical teams worked to save him, he gasped out the warning to the United Earth Defense Council gathered around his hospital bed. "They're coming," he said, his eyes wide with the memory of what he'd seen in the Vordari files. "Not for peace, for conquest. And they think we'll be easy." The council members looked at each other, faces grim. Humanity had just 15 years at most before the Vordari would arrive in force. "Then we'd better not be easy," said Defense Minister Greg Mason. "In fact, we'd better be the hardest thing they've ever faced." 15 years passed since Lieutenant Alan Garner crashed in the Arizona desert with his warning. The Vordari had arrived in the solar system 3 years after that crash, just as he had predicted. They came with 20 large ships and quickly set up bases on Pluto, Mars, and in Earth orbit. The aliens demanded resources and limited human space travel. To anyone watching, it seemed Earth and her colonies had accepted their fate. Humans worked in Vordari mines on Mars. They provided food and water to Vordari bases. They bowed their heads when Vordari officials passed by. Garner, now Admiral Garner, looked out the small window of the underground lunar facility. Above him on the moon's surface was a simple research station that the Vordari checked once a month. They never suspected what lay beneath. "Admiral, the latest shipment has arrived," said Captain Olivia Jones, a tall woman with short blonde hair. The mining team hid the materials inside the regular ore delivery. Garner nodded. He was older now, with a scar running down the left side of his face from the crash. His left arm was a prosthetic, another reminder of that day. "Did the Vordari inspect it?" "Yes, sir. The shielding worked perfectly. They had no idea what was really inside." They walked together down a long tunnel carved into the lunar rock. The tunnel opened into an enormous underground cavern. Inside was a shipyard unlike anything humanity had built before. Workers in spacesuits moved around a massive ship still under construction. It was huge, over 3 kilometers long, with a black hull that seemed to swallow light. "The retribution is nearly complete," said Dr. Samuel Okonkwo, the chief engineer of what was called Operation Silent Forge. He was a brilliant man from Nigeria who had been a university professor before the Vordari came. The drive core is installed. Weapon systems are at 90%. And the others? Garner asked. On schedule. The Leonidas at Europa is ready. The Boudica and the asteroid belt will be complete next month. The others are all between 70 and 95% complete. General Rebecca Walsh joined them, her red hair now streaked with gray. She had once been a Marine before becoming the head of all military training for the secret project. The crews are trained and ready, she said. All those years of simulator, work in hidden facilities is about to pay off. The Vordari suspect nothing? Garner asked. Walsh smiled grimly. Governor Kritvex reports to the Imperium every month that Earth is fully under control. Last week he even reduced the patrol schedules because we've been so well-behaved. The four of them entered a small meeting room cut into the rock. Inside, they met with the other leaders of Earth's secret resistance. The room was simple, with just a table and chairs, but it was one of the most secure places in the solar system. The Vordari command ship is coming, said Grace Liu, the head of intelligence. She had spent years building a spy network that watched every Vordari move. They will arrive in 3 weeks for the formal annexation ceremony. Their Supreme Commander Zexa Taylor will be on board, added Jack Ramirez, who led the team that had secretly placed bugs in Vordari communications, along with 5 of their High Council. It's the moment we've been waiting for. Are we certain about the tech advantages? Asked Walsh. We'll only get one chance at this. Dr. Okonkwo nodded confidently. The reverse-engineered shields are twice as strong as theirs. Our weapons can penetrate their defenses. Plus, they don't know about the phase technology. They never realized we were already developing advanced tech before they arrived, Liu said. All those black-budget projects from the 2090s that never made it into public knowledge. They thought they were studying our limits by looking at our commercial ships. And the colonies? Garner asked. Ready to rise up on signal, Ramirez confirmed. Mars, Europa, Ganymede, the asteroid settlements, all have hidden weapons caches and trained fighters. Admiral Garner stood up and looked at each person around the table. These were the people who had spent 15 years planning in secret, working in shadows, preparing while pretending to submit. The Vordari believe they've conquered a simple, peaceful species, he said. They have no idea that humans have been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years. They don't understand what they've awakened. He brought up a holographic display showing all 12 of the massive ships under construction across the solar system. When these dreadnoughts rise, it won't just be about driving the Vordari from our system. We're going to take the fight to them. We're going to free every world they've conquered. We're going to end their imperium forever. Dr. Okonkwo spoke up. The Vordari once told Ambassador Carter that we had nothing to offer them. They'll learn how wrong they were. 3 weeks, General Walsh said. After 15 years of hiding our strength, in 3 weeks we show them who we really are. Back. In Earth orbit, Governor Kritvex stood in his office on the main Vordari station. The crystal-bodied alien looked down at the blue planet through a viewing window. Such a compliant species, he said to his assistant. When we first encountered them, I worried they might be difficult to control. But look at them now, working our mines, providing our food, accepting their place. Supreme Commander Zexa Taylor will be pleased with your management of this system, the assistant replied. Indeed, the formal annexation will be my crowning achievement. Earth will become the newest jewel in the Imperium's collection. Kritvex did not notice the human cleaner in the corner of the room, quietly mopping the floor. The woman kept her head down as she worked, but her eyes missed nothing. When her shift ended, she returned to Earth on the regular transport shuttle. That night, she met with a contact in a small apartment in what had once been called Seattle. Confirmed, she said. The command ship arrives in exactly 21 days. All their leadership will be aboard. The man nodded and sent a simple coded message through a hidden network. Clock starts now. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, hidden resistance cells received the message. Weapons were checked. Plans were reviewed. People who had been pretending to be broken began to stand tall again. In the lunar shipyard, Admiral Garner received the message and gave the order to begin final preparations. It's time, he told his crew as he walked the nearly finished bridge of the Retribution. Soon, very soon, we show the Vordari and the galaxy who humanity really is. The day of the annexation arrived with clear skies over Earth. The massive Vordari command ship entered orbit with 5 escort vessels. It was enormous, nearly 2 kilometers long, covered in the same purple-blue crystal material as the Vordari themselves. Governor Kritvex had arranged everything perfectly. On a large stage in what was once called Geneva, he waited with his staff. Thousands of humans stood in neat rows before the stage. Their faces were blank, showing no emotion. Vordari guards with energy weapons stood at regular intervals around the crowd. In orbit, Supreme Commander Zex Taylor prepared to descend to the surface. 15 years had passed since his first meeting with the human ambassador. Now he would officially claim Earth as property of the Vordari Imperium. "The submission ceremony is ready, Supreme Commander," reported an aide. "Governor Kritvex has the humans assembled." "Excellent," Zex Taylor said, his forearms moving in a gesture of satisfaction. "Have the human leaders sign the treaty first? Then I will address their species." On the main screen of the command ship, the image of United Earth President Laura Chen appeared. She was a small woman in her 60s with short gray hair and a simple blue suit. Her face showed the appropriate respect as she bowed to the Supreme Commander. "We are ready for your arrival, Supreme Commander," she said softly. "Earth awaits your wisdom and leadership." Zex Taylor made the clicking sound that passed for Vordari laughter. "Very good. I will descend in 1 hour. Prepare your people for their new status in our Imperium." The screen went dark as the transmission ended. In his command chair, Zex Taylor turned to his second. "See how well they have learned their place? Not like the Zalari who fought us for decades." "Humans are weaker than the Zalari," the second replied. "Their bodies break easily. Their weapons were primitive." "A simple conquest," Zex Taylor agreed. Back on Earth, President Chen stood in a secure underground bunker beneath the old United Nations building in New York. Around her were the leaders of Earth and her colonies, watching the same transmission that had just ended. "They still don't suspect anything," she said, turning to the others. "Admiral Garner, are we ready?" Garner nodded, his face serious. "All Dreadnoughts report ready status. Crews are at battle stations. Ground forces are in position near all Vordari outposts." "Then it's time," Chen said. She pressed a button on the console before her. "This is President Chen to all commands. Operation Reckoning is now active. I repeat, Operation Reckoning is now active." In orbit, Zex Taylor was preparing to board his shuttle when alarms suddenly blared throughout the command ship. "Supreme Commander," shouted his second. "Multiple energy signatures detected. Massive ships rising from everywhere." "Explain," Zex Taylor demanded, rushing back to the command center. The main screen showed impossible images. A huge black ship rising from the lunar surface, breaking through the regolith that had hidden it. Another emerging from Jupiter's moon Europa, ice shattering around it. More appeared from Mars, from the asteroid belt, and even from Earth's oceans. "Impossible," whispered Zex Taylor. "Their shipyards are all under our control." His console lit up with an incoming transmission. When he accepted it, Admiral Garner's face filled the screen. Behind him was the bridge of a warship unlike anything the Vordari had seen from humans before. "Supreme Commander Zex Taylor," Garner said, his voice calm. "You once dismissed us as primitives barely out of our gravity well. You should have studied our history more carefully." Zex Taylor's black eyes widened. "You are the survivor, the one from the diplomatic vessel." "I am. And today, the real Earth rises to meet you." On the screen behind Garner, Zex Taylor could see the name of the vessel, UES Retribution. In Geneva, the humans who had been standing in neat rows suddenly moved as one. They pulled hidden weapons from under their clothes and turned on the surprised Vordari guards. Governor Kritvex tried to flee but found himself surrounded by humans who no longer looked blank and submissive. Similar scenes played out across Earth and throughout the solar system. On Mars, miners dropped their tools and seized control of Vordari outposts. On space stations, human workers revealed hidden weapons and took over. Back in orbit, President Chen's face appeared on the screen next to Garner's. "You were never the hunters," she told the shocked Supreme Commander. "You were the bait." The first dreadnought to fully emerge was the Retribution, commanded by Admiral Garner himself. At over 3 kilometers long, the black warship made the Vordari command vessel look small. Its hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it seem like a moving hole in space. Behind it followed 11 more dreadnoughts, each massive and intimidating. Leonidas, Boudica, Shaka, Geronimo, Trieu, Hannibal, Tomo, Alexander, Zenobia, Napoleon, and Sitting Bull. They formed a ring around the Vordari ship's weapons ports open and glowing with energy. "What are these vessels?" demanded Zex's Taylor. "You had no such technology." "We had it," Garner replied. "We just kept it hidden. While you watched our commercial ships and thought you knew our limits, our military technology remained classified. When you arrived, we did not show our true strength. Instead, we studied you. We learned your weaknesses. We improved upon your designs." Governor Kritvex was brought before a communication screen on Earth, surrounded by armed humans. His crystal body showed damage where he had tried to fight. "Supreme Commander," he said, his voice shaking, "the humans deceived us. They were never submissive. They were waiting." 15 years of preparation, President Chen said. 15 years of reverse engineering your technology while pretending to be conquered. 15 years of building our dreadnoughts in secret while you thought we were broken. Admiral Garner leaned forward on his screen. "Your ships are surrounded. Your ground forces are captured. You have one chance, Zex's Taylor. Surrender now, and we will spare your lives. Resist, and we will show you what humanity does to those who threaten our freedom." Zex Taylor looked at the tactical display. 12 massive human warships surrounded his 6 vessels. Already, his escort ships were reporting human fighters swarming around them, too many to count. "You would not destroy us," Zex Taylor said, trying to sound confident. "You need our knowledge, our technology." Garner smiled coldly. "We've had 15 years to extract all the knowledge we needed from your databases, your outposts, your research. We don't need you alive, Supreme Commander. But we prefer not to destroy when we can rebuild. Your choice." Across the solar system, humans looked up at the sky or at screens showing the standoff in orbit. After 15 years of pretending to be conquered, of working and waiting and preparing, the moment of truth had arrived. The Vordari had thought they were safe in their superiority. They never imagined that the conquered species would rise against them with such overwhelming force. They never expected Earth's dreadnoughts. Supreme Commander Zexa Taylor stared at the human admiral on his screen and realized, too late, the terrible mistake his Imperium had made. 3 months after Earth revealed its dreadnoughts, the war against the Vordari Imperium was well underway. The Vordari Supreme Commander Zex Taylor had refused to surrender. His 6 ships tried to fight, but they were quickly destroyed or captured. Zex Taylor himself escaped in a small vessel, fleeing back to Vordari space with news of the human rebellion. The Vordari homeworld received the shocking news but didn't believe the threat was serious. They thought Zex Taylor was exaggerating the danger. How could a species that had seemed so docile for 15 years suddenly have such powerful warships? "Send the Third Fleet to crush this human uprising," ordered the Vordari High Council. "Show them the true might of our Imperium." The Third Fleet was massive, with over 100 warships. It was commanded by Fleet Master Venzora, a veteran of a dozen conquest campaigns. He gathered his ships at the edge of Vordari space, preparing to jump to the Sol system and destroy the human rebellion once and for all. But Admiral Garner had no intention of waiting for the Vordari to come to Earth. Humanity was taking them, fight to them. "We've studied their tactics for 15 years, Garner told his captains during a strategy meeting aboard the Retribution. "The Vordari always expect enemies to defend, never to attack. Their arrogance will be their downfall." The plan was bold. While 9 dreadnoughts stayed to protect Earth and the Sol system, 3 would jump to Alpha Centauri, the closest star system to Earth and home to 3 Vordari colony worlds. Garner would lead the attack himself with the Retribution, the Leonidas, and the Shaka. President Chen met with Garner the night before the mission launched. They stood in the observation deck of the Retribution, looking at the stars. "Is 3 ships enough?" she asked. "Our intelligence reports the Vordari have 20 ships at Alpha Centauri," Garner replied. "But they've never faced anything like our Dreadnoughts, and they've never faced humans fighting at full strength." Chen nodded. "The peoples they've conquered are watching, Alan. Show them that freedom is possible." The next morning, the 3 massive Earth warships activated their jump drives and vanished from the Sol system. The technology was based on Vordari designs but improved by human engineers. The ships could travel faster and jump more precisely than anything the Vordari had. They emerged at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system, immediately detected by Vordari sensor stations. Alarms sounded across the system as the 3 black warships moved toward the main colony world. On the main Vordari colony, Governor Trasvor received the alert with disbelief. "Humans? Here? Impossible." His aide showed him the sensor readings. 3 ships, Governor. Larger than any vessel in our fleet. "Contact Fleet Master Venzora immediately," the governor ordered. "Tell him the humans have come to Alpha Centauri, in space." The Vordari defense fleet of 20 ships formed a protective line in front of their main world. They were confident in their numbers and firepower. They had never lost a battle when they outnumbered their enemy. Aboard the Retribution, Admiral Garner studied the enemy formation on his tactical display. Captain Lisa Rodriguez of the Leonidas and Commander John Washington of the Shaka appeared on his screen. "They're arranged in a standard defensive wall," Rodriguez noted. "Just like in the simulations we ran." Washington nodded. "They expect us to approach head-on. They don't know about our phase technology." "Exactly," Garner said. "Captain Rodriguez, you'll execute the Thermopylae maneuver. Commander Washington, prepare the Buffalo Horns formation for your fighters. I'll take the Retribution straight down their center." The Vordari commander watched as the 3 human ships approached. "Such foolishness," he said to his bridge crew. "They think 3 ships can defeat 20? Open fire when they enter range." The Vordari ships fired a coordinated barrage of energy weapons. The space between the fleets lit up with purple beams of destructive force. But something strange happened. The human ships seemed to shimmer, and most of the beams passed harmlessly through them. "Phase shields engaged," reported Garner's tactical officer. "Minimal damage." "What happened?" demanded the Vordari commander. "Our weapons had no effect." His science officer looked up from his instruments, crystal face showing signs of stress. "They've developed some kind of phase technology. They're partially out of our dimension when the beams hit." The Leonidas suddenly accelerated, its engines flaring brightly. Captain Rodriguez stood firm on her bridge as the ship shook. "Hull temperature rising," her engineer reported. "Outer armor layer is beginning to fail." "Hold course," Rodriguez ordered. "Bring us alongside their right flank." The Leonidas deliberately sacrificed its outer hull, using the superheated material to channel a nearby solar flare directly into the right side of the Vordari formation. 5 enemy ships were caught in the plasma wave, their shields failing, under the unexpected attack from what seemed like a natural phenomenon. Meanwhile, Commander Washington's Shaka launched hundreds of small fighter craft. But instead of attacking directly, they split into 2 groups, curving around to attack the Vordari fleet from both sides at once. "Buffalo Horns deployed," Washington reported. "Their command and control can't track all our fighters at once." The Vordari ships tried to adjust, their formation breaking as they attempted to deal with threats from multiple directions. That's when Admiral Garner took the Retribution straight through the middle of their disorganized line. "Main guns, fire at will," Garner ordered. The Dreadnoughts' weapons were unlike anything the Vordari had seen before. Based on their own technology but enhanced by human innovation, the beams cut through Vordari shields like they weren't even there. "How is this possible?" the Vordari commander shouted as his ship shook from a direct hit. "Their weapons shouldn't be this powerful." In just 30 minutes of battle, 12 Vordari ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 8 retreated to the other side of the planet, calling desperately for reinforcements. On the colony world below, The subjugated alien species watched in amazement as the mighty Vordari fleet was defeated. Many of them had been under Vordari control for generations. They had never imagined freedom was possible. Governor Trasvor received the news with horror. We've lost more than half our fleet? To just 3 human ships? His communication officer looked up from his console. Governor, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship. Admiral Garner's face appeared on the screen. Governor Trasvor, I am Admiral Alan Garner of the United Earth Forces. Your fleet is defeated. Your reinforcements will not arrive in time. I offer you one chance to surrender. Why would I surrender to you? Trasvor demanded, trying to hide his fear. Because we're not just here to defeat the Vordari, Garner replied. We're here to free every world you've conquered. Even now, liberation, forces are landing on 3 of your colony planets. The peoples you've enslaved are rising up, inspired by Earth's example. As if to confirm his words, alarms began to sound throughout the governor's palace. Reports came in of uprisings in every major city. The battle for Alpha Centauri would be remembered as the turning point. It was the moment when the galaxy realized that the Vordari Imperium was not invincible. It was the day when hope returned to a dozen enslaved species, and it was just the beginning of humanity's campaign. 6 months after the Battle of Alpha Centauri, the war had changed completely. What began as a human rebellion against Vordari occupation had become a full-scale revolution across the galaxy. The 17 star systems that once made up the Vordari Imperium were in chaos as planet after planet rose up against their oppressors. Admiral Garner stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking at the tactical display showing the Vordari homeworld. The massive Earth Dreadnought led a fleet of 30 ships, including vessels from 5 different alien species who had joined the fight against their former masters. The Zilari ships are in position, reported his tactical officer. The Brentari fleet is standing by. All Earth Dreadnoughts report ready status. Garner nodded. In the 6 months since Alpha Centauri, Earth forces had won every major engagement. The Vordari, who had conquered through superior technology and numbers, suddenly found themselves outmatched. Human ingenuity had taken their technology and improved it beyond recognition. More importantly, Earth had given hope to species that had lived under Vordari rule for centuries. The Zilari, with their 4 eyes and leathery skin, had been the first to join the humans. Then came the Brentari, the Kalesh, the Ordovians, and many others. Open a channel to the Vordari capital, Garner ordered. The main screen lit up to show Supreme Commander Zexus Taylor. The once proud Vordari leader looked diminished. His crystal body showed cracks and his movements were slower. Admiral Garner, Zex Taylor said, his voice flat. Have you come to destroy our world as you destroyed our fleet? I've come to end this war, Garner replied. Your empire is finished, Zex Taylor. 12 of your 17 systems have already declared independence. Your fleets are scattered or destroyed, it's over. Zex Taylor was silent for a long moment. The High Council requests a meeting, not to surrender but to discuss terms. 24 hours later, Admiral Garner, President Chen, and General Martinez sat across from Zex Taylor and 3 members of the Vordari High Council. The meeting took place in a neutral location, a space station orbiting the Vordari homeworld. Representatives from the newly freed worlds were also present. You could destroy us completely, Zexus Taylor acknowledged, looking at the humans. Your dreadnoughts could reduce our cities to ash. And yet you offer terms. Why? Admiral Garner looked the Supreme Commander in the eyes. Because domination isn't our way. We fought because we had to. We'll stop because we choose to. President Chen spoke next. Earth doesn't want to replace one empire with another. We want to build something better. A community of worlds where each species governs itself but works together for common goals. The Vordari leaders looked at each other in confusion. Such an idea was foreign to them. For 1,000 years they had believed that power meant controlling others. What terms do you propose? Asked one of the High Council members. General Martinez, who had survived the original diplomatic mission 15 years ago, laid out the plan. The Vordari Imperium will be dissolved. Each world will decide its own form of government. The Vordari will withdraw all military forces from other worlds within 30 days. And what of our homeworld? Sex Taylor asked. It remains yours, Garner said. But your shipyards will be converted to peaceful purposes. Your weapons technology will be restricted, and representatives of your world will join the new Galactic Cooperative as equals, not rulers. The negotiations lasted 3 days. In the end, the Treaty of Sol was signed. It marked the official end of the Vordari Imperium and the birth of something new in the galaxy. 1 month later, representatives from 23 species gathered on Earth. They met in the restored United Nations building in New York, where only months earlier humans had pretended to be conquered while secretly building their resistance. Admiral Garner, now gray-haired but standing tall, watched from the side as President Chen addressed the gathering. Today we sign the Charter of the Cooperative, she said, not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals, each world sovereign in its own right, but united in our commitment to freedom, peace, and mutual defense. One by one, the representatives came forward to sign. The Zalari, who had fought beside humans at 3 major battles, the Brentari, whose medical knowledge had saved countless lives, the Kalesh, whose ships had helped liberate 6 worlds, and many others, including a Vordari representative who moved with the hesitation of someone still learning a new way. Later, in the observatory deck of the Retribution, Admiral Garner stood with President Chen, watching the stars. Earth's largest, Dreadnought was to become the flagship of the Cooperative's defense fleet. They never understood what they awakened when they came to conquer us, Chen said quietly. Garner nodded. They saw our peaceful exploration ships and thought we were weak. They never studied our history. They never learned that humans have been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years. We're good at war, Chen agreed. But I hope we're better at peace. Beyond Earth orbit, a ship from a distant star system approached cautiously. It was unlike any vessel humans had seen before. Organic-looking, with sections that seemed to pulse with life. It had appeared at the edge of the solar system days after news of the Vordari defeat had spread across known space. Another species, seeking to join the cooperative, Garner wondered. Or perhaps just watching to see what we'll do next, Chen replied. We defeated the Vordari so quickly and decisively that we've gotten the attention of the galaxy. Let's hope they learn the right lesson, Garner said. Not just that humanity is powerful, but that we use our power differently than the Vordari did. Chen looked out at the stars, thinking of all the worlds and species yet to be discovered. They thought they were safe when they came to conquer Earth. That was their first mistake. Their second was not realizing that once we defeated them, we would offer friendship instead of domination. The Vordari had not understood the complexity of human nature, both our capacity for violence when threatened and our desire for peace and cooperation afterward. As word spread across the galaxy about the humans who had defeated the mighty Vordari Imperium, other species began to approach, some with fear, others with hope. Earth and humanity had arrived on the galactic stage in a way no one could ignore. The age of the Dreadnoughts had begun, but it would not be an age of conquest. It would be something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. And it all started because the Vordari thought they were safe, until Earth's Dreadnoughts descended.